as a team several times between February and today, just kind of talking about what our plans are for the future. So not just for this semester, but we've had to cancel our session in June simply because UT is closed until July 31st to anything on campus. So, like, we can't have workshops, we can't have students. It's just I guess like a neutral ground might be the best way to describe it. Nobody can come on who's not already there. So what we're hoping that we can learn from today's session as well is, could we do this online in the future? Could we make this more inclusive with other states potentially? And, oh, sorry, my email, I need to turn my email off. Okay. Yeah, can we make this more inclusive with other states, educators from other states, what we can do. And so you guys are still going to be our guinea pigs. Thank you very much. And if you have a guinea pig, you should physically hold it up because I hear some of your students have guinea pigs. So I missed my guinea pig from when I was a kid. Anyway, that's kind of the first thing I want to say. And I am, again, happy that everybody does seem to appear to be healthy and making it the best way that we can right now. I've been telling my students, and I'm going to tell you guys too, take the time. This is not normal. Do what you need to do, to figure out what your new normal will be. Because it is weird, I think is the best way to describe it. And I know some of you have had friends and family members tested, and I'm thinking about you guys too. Yeah. So yeah, going forward, it's going to be pretty hard putting curriculum into the classroom. Would you guys agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we use this period as a way to think about what we would be doing and kind of getting the time to do the brainstorming behind it. Developing the actual curriculum and maybe an example or two that, then maybe next year you guys can share with your students. I know some of you guys sounds like you're still meeting with your students. Others of you have completely stopped classes altogether. And I know some areas like where Micah is, there's just no more school anymore, right? You guys the kids have graduated and they're done. So it is just an interesting time period. So whatever we can do, let's make the most of it. But if it becomes too much, just say, Becky, I can't pull this off right now. And I will be understand, just make it is what I'm going to be saying right now. So on my side of things, I have not processed any more of the stipends yet. I apologize. I've been waiting for our business manager is also kind of, kids at home and all of these extra things. So I figured once we were done with the science communication curriculum, I would tell her one big check at the end. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for her as well, instead of processing it 2 times this semester. And I hope you guys understand why I made that kind of executive decision on that. So yeah, for the homework for this time, it's developing science communication curriculum for your students. So that's just the development. You won't be able to implement it. If you can, fantastic. If you can't, I totally understand we're in a pandemic right now. If you can make an example out of it, that'll be fantastic, because I can share that with the USDA and here's what we have, and we can put some of that on the website. Do you guys have questions about that?
And Becky, do we need to, because we've got, more than 20 of us, do we need to set up a little bit of a best practices protocol so that everyone's not talking over each other at once?
Sure, but I really like the talking over each other. It makes it feel real.
All right. Well, if you definitely want to be heard, if you have not yet, if you click on manage, or if you click on the word participants, you'll get a list of everybody that's in the meeting. And from there, you're going to see a bunch of little icons that you can click. Yes, no, go slower, faster. And then there's a more option. And there's a little, I think there should be a hand in there, like a raised hand. So if you want to make sure, I'm going to be monitoring. There we go, Tanya. Nice. I'm going to be monitoring that the whole time today. So I will make sure that if you've got something and you want to get somebody's attention, I will be sure to let them know. You can also, if you want to, if you've not already, you can click on the chat button, and that'll bring up a little chat box, and you can type questions in there. if you type it in there and it says to everyone, everyone will see it. And then if you just want to say, just send a note to Julie to ask her a specific question, you can click on, select Julie's name and then send her a question. Or if you want to send something specifically to Micah, you can do that as well. But if it's sent out to everyone, again, I'll be keeping an eye on that. And I'll make sure that we get all those questions addressed as we go on. But otherwise, yeah, feel free to just speak on top of each other. It's fine.
Yeah, just do that. I like that so much more. And I know it could become kind of sound crazy, but then we just kind of step back and have the discussion, right? You know, it becomes a little bit harder, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, so the chat feature is good. The reaction features are good. I'm trying to think of the other things. You know, for my class and for some of the other things, we just kind of go forward because it's just crazy times, right? Like, yeah. So I guess the only thing I am going to say is if you have to go to the bathroom, please leave your computer where it is. Don't be like Jennifer, right? In that movie, in that one video. If you guys haven't seen that video, don't take it to the bathroom. Yeah. And we won't, yeah. If you have to step
Sorry,
away.
I was typing a message and apparently I found airplane mode on my computer.
Yes.
I didn't know it was there.
Yeah. So things are going to happen, right? Like I'm probably going to lose internet at least 3 times during this. I've got the mobile hotspot turned on. There could be thunderstorms and lightning. And then the other thing is if you do have to step away, just go ahead and step away. We're not going to judge you, right? Like it's going to be the same thing as if we're in the workshop, right? If you have to go to the bathroom, get up and go. Don't like wait for the break. Just do what you need to do. My goal for today is to just kind of keep us moving forward with Michael and Micah recording what we need so you guys can go back and look at it later on because there will be distractions, right? I mean, is anybody not going to be distracted by something? Because if you are, I want your like small light. Like it's been, yeah, for me, it's one distraction after another. So that's the other thing. And then the other piece I wanted to talk about was the continuing education units. For those of you who want those or need those, please email Kurt and he will help get you those education units. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send out a reminder.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. So I don't have lunch for you guys today, but we do have a lunch and learn speaker. She is Dr. Sharon Dunwiddie from the University of Wisconsin. Julie and I did a Zoom with her earlier this week, and that was really nice. She seems like a really cool person. I wish she was here in person, but I'm glad that she's safe in Wisconsin.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Sharon she's like a huge leader in the field of science communication, and she's won pretty much any award you can think of. Well, you probably don't know the awards that we get, but pretty much every award, like pretty much every organization, and just retired recently. And she's like my hero of all time. I just want to be Sharon because she always knows the right thing to say. She's never critical of anybody. She's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So I'm so excited she's here. Sort of.
No, she seemed really cool. We were just having our, just like, here's how Zoom works and, you can show presentations and I don't know. What was supposed to be like a 20-minute ended up being an hour, but that was good. She just seems really easygoing too. So we do have a lunch and learn today. We're going to try to get through most of the new material to you guys before the lunch and learn. And then afterwards have some more time. Oh, there's another cat. Some more time for curriculum development. So yeah, hopefully you guys will be able to also, we're going to break you guys out into groups. Have you guys done that yet? So, okay, so some of you have, some of you haven't. I'm just going to kind of show you real quick what it's going to feel like. So I'm going to, oh wait, I think you're the only one who can do it, Michael.
I've made you a co-host, so if not, you just let me know and I'll hit the breakout room button if you're ready.
Yeah, I don't see it for me. So yeah,
All
go ahead and make like 5 rooms. And you guys will have to accept this invitation to the rooms.
All right. And I think they'll only be gone for about a minute is all.
Okay.
And open all rooms. So we'll see y'all back here in about a minute.
There he is over there.
Welcome back, everybody.
That breakout room functionality is pretty nice, Michael. It works well.
Yeah, Josh, by chance, are you using 2 different devices to join us today?
I am.
Okay. I wasn't sure who the other Josh was, and I thought, it's probably you on here twice, unless you have a sinister twin that we don't know about.
Not that I know of, but I have the other one open on my computer, and then I'm on my phone right now with this pulled up because I am supervising a rambunctious toddler. But I am participating nevertheless.
Michael took away our microphones. Okay. Now I have my mic back. Yeah, so Josh, totally understand. I'm whispering kind of right now simply because everybody in my house is asleep and I don't want them to wake up. So the longer they're asleep, the better we all are.
I had that exact thought this morning. That is a good state to be in.
Yeah. So that breakout room, ideally what will happen, what Michael did there was a random breakout. So we all kind of went in. For the next time we do a breakout session, it'll just kind of be the educators who are breaking out to the different rooms. So you guys actually have time. And then, one of us might kind of drop in and eavesdrop on you guys and answer any questions that you might have. So it'd be really similar to what we did in the workshop, right? Like you guys separated out and talked some things through. And then myself or Michael or Brian or Kurt, we're walking around the room just being like, hey, is everything cool? Do you guys have a question? And then you guys would ask us. So does that sound okay-ish? You can do like thumbs up or head nods. Cool. You guys are already so much better than my undergrads and graduate students. Thank you for just giving me feedback. It's so funny. Oh yeah, the magical world where everyone is still asleep at 9. Yes, seriously, it's awesome. We wake up early now to get things done. So I have nothing else that I can think of. But ideally we can get done earlier today because I know it's going to be hard. So hopefully everybody got the email. Well, obviously you guys did because you got the link. Sorry, that was dumb. But hopefully you guys had the opportunity to look at the work from home homework, I guess is the way to put it. Seems silly to call things homework now these days too. So Dr. Julie had set up a PowerPoint for you guys, and then Micah and I did a Canva how-to video, which I couldn't watch because of my voice being on it, but hopefully that came through okay, and you guys were able to just play around. So I think today, we're putting on our different hat right now, right? More of our science communication hat. We've done this experiment with the students where, they've asked a question. Some of you guys have been able to create maps and some of you guys haven't. I totally understand that. At the end of the day, we might do some sharing from the maps and how you guys want to get creative for, kind of doing this, maybe for the rest of the semester. So I'm going to stop rambling and just go ahead and turn it over to Julie. But before that, do you guys have questions? No, I'm kind of going down okay, cool. I actually have like a real bingo board, you guys, by the way. It's 5 by 5, right? It's like almost Hollywood squares. All right, Julie. How will we get supplies for next year? We will talk about next year at the end of the day. We do have a strategy for that, which I hope most of you are on board for. I don't know how else to put it. Julie, I'm going to mute myself and let you take over. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Hey, Julie, let me interrupt for just a second. I'm going to pause the recording so it'll end that video, and I'm going to restart the recording. That way we'll start fresh with you, okay?
Okay.
To delete that other video because it's just my rambling.
All right, Julie, you're all set. Thank you.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to listen to the PowerPoint I posted the other day? 1 or 2, 3 of you, 4 of you? Okay. So what I wanted to do is I thought I could either go through that again quickly or call it up and just kind of page through and see if there's questions that you had about each specific point. Would that work for you guys? So I see nodding, and when I see nodding, I just go ahead. Okay, so let me see if I can get my screen share up here. I've got like 20 gajillion PowerPoint things pulled up today. There we go. Okay. So like I say, I'll just kind of run through this, and that way, if you guys have questions, I won't do the whole narration, but if you have questions, please ask. And I'm only looking at you in like a little, now I've only got a 4x1 row. So if you could hit chat or something, just if you have a question, that'll be good. So it's really difficult for me to boil this down to, an hour. So I think the main thing that's exciting about this portion of the program is that you may have had students at the beginning or in previous stages who weren't quite so excited to do the project, which is crazy, but some of them probably don't like going out where mosquitoes are and snakes. So this is this is good for the rest of your students, and they'll give it, if you do it right, they'll get a chance to actually do some research, but more crowd research on people, which is, you may not believe it, but much more difficult than doing it on mosquitoes. Because people have individual preferences that change from minute to minute, year to year, and we're all different in terms of our preferences. So it's spring, or what was it? In June, gosh, it seems like forever. In June, I had 2 questions for you. One was identify your target audience. So we're going in and we're asking questions about developing a research project. It's what kind of research should we actually be doing? And there's no point in doing research really unless you can communicate your findings, especially when it's about something important and risky like lacrosse. So you want to think a little bit about, and you may have more than one target audience for your project, but you have to come up with messages that are different for each person, or not each person, but each group of stakeholders, because they have different interests. My other question was, back in June, how can you best communicate your findings? And that is, are we trying to just make them aware? Are we trying to perform a behavior? And those things may sound pretty interchangeable, but they're not. It's pretty easy actually to get people to become aware of something. You just give them information and hope they're interested enough to at least consume it. But it's much more difficult to get people to perform a behavior. Think about any smokers you know who said, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit, but didn't they actually do it? It's much more difficult and hard to believe that it is. We have that about a lot of things. Okay, so I gave you a really brief summary of dual processing models, which is how we figure out how to develop messages for different groups. And so we have usually an involved audience. In this case, who would that be? I'm getting brave and asking a question.
We have the chat, Julie.
Okay. Students, right. Students would be good.
Potentially parents would be a good.
Parents would be good. And because parents are going to be the ones who maybe help the kids make the connection between what they're doing at school and home. So we know that the involved audience is already paying attention to the messages. They're seeking out much more detailed information as to what they can do. So the idea here, and this is a really oversimplistic depiction, is people move from the message to doing a response when they're involved. So I put up some West Nile messages just to kind of give us some things to talk about. And this one is a good message, I think, for involved audiences because it shows us why should I be doing those things. If you could look at it more closely, you would see that drain the water because mosquitoes tend to breed in water. So that's important. We need to know why we're doing something in order to get us to do it. That'll help us remember why we need to do it, etc. So you give people a really simple way of trying to remember. Localize it down here. Make sure that people understand that it's right here and we're the ones, you guys are the ones who are collecting the data here in our community. So localization is important and give them more places to look. And hopefully that's where some of the slideshow information will come in that we'll talk about later in the day. I'm moving my chat. Okay. Back to dual processing. The uninvolved audiences are the ones who think that this doesn't really matter to me. Like maybe somebody who doesn't have kids, who's not too worried about being outside, who doesn't hike or anything, maybe they're not involved. They perceive they're not involved, but possibly they have, you know, dead plants, dead pots of plants over there collecting water along the side of the garage. And I'm hoping you're not seeing the side of my garage at this point. So here we're just trying to get them interested, show them that actually this does matter to them. So here's some, as you see, much more simple messages. This draining water thing, I don't know where that came from. It's just, it seems to me a little bit too refined to be, you know, sitting outside gathering water. Anyhow, so yeah, just stop West Nile virus. They don't need to know what it is necessarily. Just see, repellent, wear long clothing. Of course, the eliminate mosquitoes, I'm sure Becky is not real happy with that portion of the program because it suggests that all mosquitoes are the same. And of course, we don't want to stereotype. Okay, and this is a really complex thing if you look at it quickly. Basically, what I'm saying here is we need people, when they're thinking about threats, they need to think about susceptibility, that is, how likely are they or someone they care about to be affected by this, and severity. How bad would it be if I was affected? Obviously, right now with the COVID-19, there's a lot of people who think they're susceptible. There's a lot of people who don't think they're susceptible, maybe because they're in a rural area. But we can definitely see that there's some severity going on there. That's that. The other thing we evaluate is efficacy. And efficacy is incredibly important. If we don't have a way of solving the problem or a way of addressing the problem, then we're just going to write it off. And I think this is what's going to be really key as you guys create your units this year, because what we want to think about is the fact that we're getting so many messages already on what to do and what not to do with the COVID virus. And I think people are likely to just throw their hands in the air and say, something's going to kill me, may as well be this. Although coronavirus sounds like a particularly nasty way to go. So I think that efficacy is what we really want to show. And what we care about there is that, can we do something? Can I do something to help? If I go out there and dump those pots of water, will that help? And then response efficacy. Can I do it? But if I do it, will that help? And so what we want to do here is really promote those things. So simple instructions. Don't make people read between the lines. But what we want to do is be very careful to say something like, dump the water because that's where mosquitoes breed, or wear the long sleeves, or especially if you go out after dark, make sure you're wearing the repellent. So here I just threw in a few. This one, to me, is, and Mike is our expert on graphics, and she'll talk about those things later, but to me, it's like they're giving you way too much information all at once. The numbers are, to me, misleading. Why do I need to do those in that order? And it's just not really clear as to what the threat actually is. But we've got lots of ways to treat it. So there's lots of efficacy. We just don't know what the threat is. This one I found very bizarre. Okay, and so then finding your audience, and here's where your students, and I didn't talk a whole lot about this on the recording I made because I was getting tired, but this is something your students can really help with, assuming they ever get to go outside again. And that is, we need to know, how are we going to communicate with people? And, you know, I'm sure we can't afford to buy advertising on local TV or newspapers, even if people read it, on websites. So we can think about free ways, or at least inexpensive ways. Can I bigify my PowerPoint? Yes, I can. Sorry. Is that any bigger, Brian?
I think it's because you have it in,
It's because I have it on the other screen. Hang on.
yeah. I think the one thing I want to stress to you guys too is that a lot of the material that's developed for mosquito control for the audience, the public, is surrounding West Nile virus, which is a completely different mosquito, right? It's a Culex mosquito that likes those big open waters that's really dirty, versus lacrosse virus, which is the Aedes mosquito that likes those containers around your yard. And so, you know, we really need to change the message when it comes to controlling for lacrosse virus, preventing lacrosse virus from happening. I'm going to try to find some infographics that CDC has developed, if I can find them, while Julie's doing something. And I'll do that like on the side over here, and then when Julie's ready, I'll show you some of the things that have been developed for lacrosse. But you'll see it's not nearly as many as what's been done for West Nile virus, and that's simply because a lot of communities themselves are doing West Nile virus promotion and awareness for control.
Okay, so sorry about that. I think I screwed up by bigifying, but
If you put
here
it,
we go.
so if you if you go up top and do slideshow,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't want to say from the beginning, but from current slide, that'll make it a
that's
bit
what I was
bigger.
just doing. I know it makes it bigger, but I'm not being able to find it here.
Oh, okay.
Once I get it up, see, because I've got
does it then
20 kajillion different. Oops. PowerPoint's pulled open right now. So if you could just bear with it.
We can do it. Yeah.
It's not that awful. Okay.
No, it's not.
I go to conferences, professional conferences all the time. I'm sure you do too, Becky, and you guys probably do as well, where you know, somebody's up there and they've got PowerPoints with 10-point type on them, and they're like, "Here, look at this, look at that," and we're like, "I'd like to." So at least I'm trying to make it bigger. Okay. And I think I lost the chat when I was doing that. Okay, got it. I'm just going to leave it like this, okay? Because this is the last slide, so for this part. So here's where you can really get your audience, or your students involved. If they can ever go outside again, they can do research about where are people congregating? Do people stand there and look at the bulletin boards in the grocery store? Who's looking at the bulletin boards in the grocery store? They can talk to people about where would you get your information? How would you seek information on our community or health risks? How could you find that? If you have a camping equipment store, maybe they've got a bulletin board, or they'd be willing to hang a flyer up there. So your students can be doing research on people and how people are behaving and what they're interested in order to try to best locate the message. Again, it doesn't have to be an expensive kind of message. So the problem is creating a well-designed message. And so that's kind of where I left off here without telling you what a well-designed message is. Like I say, Mike is going to talk about that in this afternoon in terms of what messages can look like. What I want to say is don't just assume everybody knows what you're talking about. So let's say you sit around with your students and kind of brainstorm slogans. I'm going to go back to one of these others here. So yeah, if you can see these guys, it says it's not just a bite. Okay, clearly the communicators knew what they were doing. They knew what they wanted to say, but we can't see anything that's going on there in terms of what kind of a bite, et cetera, et cetera. It says mosquitoes generally spread West Nile virus. So, and Becky, I just chose the West Nile ones because, you know, I figure everybody here is going to be coming up with their own lacrosse virus. Oh, she left. So what you need to do is pre-test messages, okay? Before you invest in any kind of flyers or putting out a slideshow or anything like that, just like if you were going to send a letter to or an email to a parent, make sure that you've copy edited, first of all, because there's quite a few things in public health that don't come off well if they are not properly spelled. Public being one. So then what you want to do is take people from your audiences who aren't involved in it and have them go through and not involved in your topic and go through and talk about them. So what the West Nile virus people should have done here is, take those photos, look around and say, does this convey anything to you? What's wrong with the guy on the left? What's wrong with the young woman on the right? What are they trying to tell us? One thing I've never been bitten on the face by a mosquito, so that was odd to me. But it's just more of a, thank you. But the point is, you want to pre-test to make sure people really understand your messages. Okay, so you say that it can harm children. The lacrosse could harm children. Your child could die, or your child could have these severe health problems. It should be more specific than just children. Make sure it's children in our community, or if there's a specific age group of children who are most at risk. What is that information? So convey it as best as possible, and like I say, pre-test the messages for your target audience with members of them, just to make sure that everything goes out okay. I'm sure we can all think of messages, advertising messages, etc., that came out differently than what people expected, what the advertisers expected. If you think back to around Christmas time, that Peloton commercial, did you guys see that? It was a Peloton. Peloton is a fancy indoor biking system that costs a lot of money, apparently, and it's generally advertised by people who appear to be in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're biking in a very nice place in their house. And so Peloton came out with this ad over Christmas, and it showed this woman who, it's like somebody's videoing this woman, and she's like, I didn't know if I could do this, and she looks really scared the whole time. And so people were thinking that Peloton is like promoting the wife who's the prisoner in her house, that she's being held hostage or something and forced to do Peloton because she looked like she was really, really scared. Okay, that message came across very poorly and was actually parodied quite nicely on Saturday Night Live. So I won't say how, but it was really funny. So that's kind of the major things I wanted to say. One way you can study this. Okay, so not now, but Michael's posted a copy of the video. And then you might just, if you want to afterwards, go to YouTube and look at SNL, Cold Open, NATO. Okay. So how can you do these messages? How can you pre-test the messages? You can do them formally. You can do it just by asking people, going up to people and asking them. You can do focus groups where we invite a group of people together who are in the target audience and have them go through and look at a variety of different kinds of messages to see what is going to be the most useful for them. Some of you may not like, I'll tell you right now, some of you may not like the SNL clip because the prisoner is someone you all, the so-called prisoner is the woman you all know. Okay. So I'm going to stop here and see what questions you have. And I don't even know what time it is. That was really, I think that was much faster than you wanted, Becky. But so we give them more time to talk.
Yeah, I think it would give them more time to kind of think some things through. Let's see, I'm going to try to do Can I take over share screen real quick, Julie?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to show you guys my Terrifying Lab desktop. So stop other screen sharing. Yes. Okay, so the big question, can you guys see the Google search I did on kind of like infographics and science communication? Or am I showing the wrong thing?
I can see it. Science communication, mosquito infographic.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So I was kind of just scrolling through some of these to see what kind of looks good and what doesn't. Like when I click on this one, it's nice because the message is very clear, preventing and protecting, and then giving them something to do, and then more information. So really similar to what Julie was just saying. Then I come over here and it's just really busy.
Yes.
You know, I'm truly just clicking on things.
And what's really fun is this top cloud says remove distractions.
Oh yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
So this is a very confusing message because, is it even about mosquitoes? I don't think so.
It's not. It's
But
clearly about sleeping or something.
nobody's going to stand there long enough to try to figure out what this is. They've got too many different messages. If you can streamline your message to 1 or 2 points, that's what you want to do.
During the Zika virus outbreak in 2015, there was a lot of really good communication that came out from that, specifically targeting the Aedes aegypti mosquito, and how things had to be translated to different languages as well. But the pictures helped make that happen, you know, with, you know, this is the mosquito that's transmitting it, wear repellent, extremely important to pregnant women, watch if you travel, and I don't know what this one is.
I think that's use repellent.
Yeah, but what does this mean then? I don't know. But yes, the Zika virus campaign was fantastic. And I think some of that information could be kind of recycled because it's an Aedes mosquito, but it should be sent to a different audience, right? Our audiences now are our students, are, you know, people who live in East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, people in our area is our audience. So that came out.
Right. So one thing we want to do there is if you're using photos of people, you want to make sure that you represent your community. And what I mean by that is people are often going to glance at a photo, one photo or one image, and say, okay, that's who's at risk. Those of you who can remember back to the 80s and how before AIDS was AIDS, it was called GRID. And so the sole group at first that was being was identified as being at risk was men who have sex with men. And therefore a lot of people, heterosexuals, tended to think that there was no way they could get it. And we know who can get the cross virus. Think about even that's even true with the coronavirus is there's so many misconceptions that children can't get it. Oh, did I say lacrosse? I meant corona, if I did.
I followed.
Thank you.
I knew what you intended. Just a few other ones that are really busy. Clicking on the wrong things. Maybe you guys can kind of see it. This one's nice because it's clean. The fact that these specific mosquitoes, Aedes aegypti, are daytime biters, wear repellent, clothing, look around your property for different things, really watching for the people who are pregnant. So there's that target audience right there again. Mm-hmm. You know, here the chikungunya. This looks a lot like Canva, I want to say, after playing with it with Micah the other day. So it looks like the CDC is using some of the things that we're going to be teaching you guys, or Micah will be teaching you.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's really about the message. So we don't have, you know, if I come up here and I type in lacrosse, it's not, there are no infographics. There are no science communication pieces. Oh, look, there's us. Sorry. There's us again. Yeah. Yeah. So there's nothing available for lacrosse encephalitis like there is for Zika virus, for chikungunya and dengue and West Nile. It's just us, and that shouldn't be the case. There should be some kind of messaging available. And what's great is, for my working with the public health departments, they are interested in whatever our students can develop. And so I think that's one thing that is important. And one thing I've noticed from my classroom is when you tell a student that this is real, things that you guys have noticed from working with the students, this is real, they're going to use, the community is going to use whatever you guys develop. The scientists at UT are going to use whatever you guys are testing in different parts of their research program. So, whatever the students develop, we can pass it forward to the Knox County Health Department, to, Hamilton County Health Department, whoever it needs to be. And they're willing to put it on their website, so not just our website too. I don't know if they have the budgets for printing and stuff, but that's a different part of it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I was promoting the slideshow so much to my students, and because that's a really quick and free way to get your message out there. And the information I'm giving you about dual processing and how to go about pre-testing your messages, etc., that all is based on research that's been going on since World War II, actually. World War II is when persuasive messaging studies really got started, because you got a bunch of men training in military camps. What else are you going to do with them but experiment on them? And that's why Capra did those Why We Fight films back in those days. So it really is, the information is amenable to any medium, any kind of message. But I did try to target it mostly for risk communication, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to look at more messages, Becky?
Totally up to you. So what we had thought about doing is at this point kind of breaking you guys out into like little rooms, I guess, again, and having you guys kind of talk about how you can develop this part of the workshop into curriculum. How you can think about how you're going to do. Oh yeah, we can do a quick break too. That's fine. I would say just get up and go whenever you need. But breaking out into the groups and trying to think about different ways to convey the idea of messaging to your students. And then we'll also have small breakouts for each of the different tools that we're going to teach you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one way that you could really convey this target audience concept to your students is for them to talk amongst themselves about, well, what would persuade you to wear the long sleeve shirt rather than a t-shirt? What would persuade us to do this? And then think about, okay, how would we tell our parents that this is really important? How do we tell other people this is really important? Because they don't necessarily have the same values as those of you who are parents probably know.
Yeah, and that's something too that you can get, like the students can get their parents involved in, right? So they can be like, would this change your mind? Or, what, like you said, Julie, what would it take for you to change your behavior? And for most people, it's like cash money, but here we have to figure out a way, right?
I have yet to figure out a way to get my cats to change their behavior, though. I'm afraid that this theory doesn't work on cats. I'm trying it, though. I'm still trying.
Yeah. Treats. All right, so should we take maybe a 5-minute break, and during that time Michael's gonna get you guys kind of organized into breakout rooms, and then he'll smash the button when you guys are ready. Cool. Not good. I'm gonna get more coffee.
Hey Becky, before you do, is there a particular grouping you want for the breakouts, or just completely random again?
I think Julie and I were talking about it as being completely random. Yeah. So I think that makes it a little easier, but just make sure that, there's educators together.
Yes.
And then, Cool. Thanks, Michael.
Hey, Becky, I think I have it broken out where each of the groups is at least 3 participants, and there's one sort of group lead from the leadership team. So I've got Brian in a team, Josh and Kurt in a separate team. I've got you in a team. I've got Micah in a team, and then I've got Julie in a team. And that way you all can help within the groups if they need it. And you just let me know when you're ready for me to open them up, and you're muted.
Yeah. I think you keep hitting mute all, and I'm like, unmute me, Michael, unmute me.
I don't think I am. I've not hit mute anybody yet. No one's done anything really embarrassing that I've needed to like nuke everybody all at once.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, this is interesting.
And, standing water. We've done a horrible job explaining that, lacrosse mosquitoes are found in, my mug of coffee if I leave it outside, those type of things, the standing containers, the tree holes themselves, that it is a different beast altogether. Yeah. Oh no, they're waking up. I hear them. Yeah.
Okay, and I think Julie said it was the SNL NATO cold open. Does that sound right? I haven't watched it, so it hasn't been vetted for appropriateness, but I'm pretty sure that's what Julie said. So watch at your own risk. And then Chrissy recommended Ryan Reynolds did a spoof for one of his companies, so I'll throw that one in there as well. Again, haven't vetted this one, so watch at your own risk.
Think when everybody gets back, I can see you, so that's one way to do it. And if I can't see you, will you just put like a reaction in your corner, like a thumbs up or a cool beans? Yeah, yes. If I can see you, it's easy, but it's when I can't. All right. Oh, we have a new friend in the corner now. All right, so I kind of, hopefully you guys got what I wrote in the chat in the corner. So we'll do about 15 minutes in each breakout. Please take the time to focus on how you're going to be thinking about what Julie just talked about and conveying that to your students. So it's identifying a message, what you guys think. So the students should actually be the ones who are developing that message. So how you teach them to develop that message. That sounds very circular in my mind when I say it out loud. Does it sound circular to you guys? Yeah, it does sound circular. So the idea is the students are developing the message. The students are coming up with the target audience. So it's you guys as the educators need to talk about this to the students, more of the curriculum side of things. And then ideally, you have 30 students in a class and they come up with 30 awesome pieces of material, of which some of them we can share. Right, it'll be a nice normal distribution. Hopefully it's skewed, right? So we have more.
Yeah, I think your 1 and 3, while they look alike, are different.
Okay.
What you want to know what kind of message, what the message is you're going to put out there, the basic topic, and then actually what the actual message is. I think what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah. And then that target audience, right? So how you're going to talk to your students about, the community as a whole could be one audience. The parents could be an audience. the siblings could be an audience. Your school system could be an audience. You know, those are all different focus group. Oh, there's a bird now too. Sorry. There's all sorts of different you know, audiences that could be listening to the message. And so, you know, how do we persuade them to change that behavior? How do we get them to do that? So you guys aren't necessarily developing the message. You're trying to figure out a way to tell your students what Julie just talked about. And then letting your students develop the message, letting your students identify the audience. So if the, you know, if the message is you need to be applying repellent to yourself, you know, that audience is very different. Let's see, so breakout rooms will automatically close after 15 minutes, and you'll have a 1-minute countdown. You guys can see that from Michael's chat. And then Diane had the question, does this material have a real outcome? In other words, when I talk to my students, is UT going to take their product as the USDA? So ideally, yes. And so I hoped I made that clear with not just the USDA taking your material, but it'll be the communities that you guys live in that could take that material. So I have already been speaking with, like, I'm very connected to the Knox County Health Department. You know, if there's material that I see from there, you know, I can just kind of forward that up, like, hey, look at what's now been developed by the community for the community. So yeah, so ideally, the material that your students develop will be used, or they could see it, right? They could see it on a billboard somewhere. Like, how cool would that be? They can see it on the Knox County website if they make the PowerPoint presentation, or the slideshow, sorry, that Julie's going to talk about. That could be all there. You know, it's one thing when I develop something, it's a whole lot better when a student develops it for the community. I feel like that has a much stronger message. How will we get it narrowed down to one piece if 30 students times 17 teachers are making these? So it might not be one piece. It might be, you know, everybody's doing different audiences, right? So it could be, yeah, you could do classroom competitions like Brian said. You know, if there's 30 awesome pieces, why just choose one? Let's over message this, right? I don't know. That's probably a whole thing that, like, Julie works on also. Probably shouldn't do that. She should answer that question. Brian's coming up with great ideas. Have your PTO be the judges. Social media is free. Share them all.
Okay. What question was it you wanted to ask me?
Oh, it was just along the idea of, is it possible to over message? Probably.
Yes, it is.
Well, maybe delayed messaging, right? Like if there are that many pieces that come out that are fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, I hate to say it like this, but we know some of them won't be fantastic, although ideally they all are. So those ones that you guys like, that you guys recommend, that you guys move forward will be the ones.
I think what you should think about is that you're not making it for the entire state or the entire region of Appalachia. You're making it for your local area. And those of you who are in Bearden and other areas in Knoxville, think about your neighborhood more, because it'd be very difficult to come up with one or two single messages to target the whole city of Knox.
Yeah. So like some of those messages,
Yeah,
and I think,
I'm sorry, Paula just typed that, choose different ones for different places.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, so some of those might be, you know, a message for, you know, like around a park versus, you know, like people who are attending a park, people who are going to school campuses, people who want to, you know, students who want to make sure that their backyards are picked up from mosquitoes. So, you know, everything you've kind of done has been kind of as a group. You could also make the students maybe do it as a group exercise if you wanted to, you know, whatever you guys think is the best, I guess. And that's kind of the great thing about this program, is each group's going to be a little different.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool if you had, you know, one unifying kind of theme, but then had break your students into several groups and have them each develop a message targeting different groups. So you could have, if you've got a Spanish language community in your area or within your community, you might have somebody come up with that. One group come up with that. Another one comes up with, you know, a message for parents. Another one comes up for students, and another one for kids who aren't involved, for people who aren't involved, who perceive that they're not involved with it, right? So they can all be working with the same data, but the message is just crafted for to target different people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the other thing too is the messaging could be about cleaning up, you know, the water, wearing repellents, just general awareness of lacrosse encephalitis. You know, there's so many different areas. Even just saying how lacrosse is different from West Nile would be interesting, because there's a lot of people who don't know that. Yeah. All right. I think we're ready, Michael. You guys good? We can do this. So
All right, getting ready to
mash the button.
We'll see you
It's
back
exciting.
there.
Who's going to be with who?
Minutes.
Diane's out. Expectations are potentially curriculum for you guys. Any material from the students exceeds expectations, right? Like right now I'm expecting all of the classrooms are pretty much survival mode. So whatever you guys can do is fantastic. But getting an idea in place for next year, or just introducing different things to them, whatever you guys can do. You know, I know some of you guys aren't even allowed to teach new things to students right now. So yeah, almost everything will exceed expectations is a good way for me to describe it. So with that, for those of you in Breakout Room 1.
Yep, so that's Brian, Debbie, Paula, and McCullough.
Very good. We had a couple of, I think, really good ideas, and one was that this is going to be student-driven, and that's very important. You got to let the kids take control, let them create, let them have ownership in the project, and not do what I guess a lot of people would call solution listening, where you're always kind of telling them what to do and leading them with what to do. We want that to be a little bit more organic than that. And I think the second biggest thing that I think it was Paula, not Paula, it was Debbie came up with, is when you're targeting your audience, she gave a really good example of how you create an infographic for a apartment complex was going to be very different than a trailer park complex. So knowing who your audience is and knowing that your students are going to have to adapt that message, because they're going to have two different types of audiences there. So I think that was important. I wanted to specifically thank Debbie for that one. So
I think it's a great idea to show your students the census data and let them see how different counties are, if nothing else, even though you can't get down to the trailer park apartment level.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, that all goes back to your audience again. And then the census data is available through ArcGIS and, you know, Esri. And so you can tie the previous lectures together. Or I don't know how, I feel like all I do is lecture. So however you guys teach, you know, they might discover, hey, this is where there's a lot of mosquitoes. This could be a target spot. That's a great idea.
And I'll put links to where in Esri's free living atlas you can find census data if you want it. I'll put a link in there to the Esri, a thing called Tapestry, which is another great resource you have access to for free with your students. And funny you should mention it, the National Weather Service keeps up with high concentrations of manufactured housing, because people in manufactured housing are often at a higher risk from certain natural disasters like straight line winds, tornadoes, and that sort of stuff. So if that's not in the Living Atlas, I will add it to the TGA Open Data Portal, and I will put it in your section for you.
Hey, Mike, in our session, we had a question. somebody had showed the CDC interactive map of mosquito-borne diseases. Does that sound familiar?
I'm sure it exists, and I will Google it real quick and put a link.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
You guys can hear the hound dog. Everybody's awake.
Becky, are you ready for group 2?
Sure. If group 1's done, I'm going to go with yes. So yeah, breakout room 2.
So breakout room 2 is, and I did not do this on purpose, this was random. So this is Christy, Crystal, and Kurt.
That sounds.
Yeah, so we, let's see, Crystal had the really great point of how Becky showed us the good examples and kind of or I guess it was Julie that showed us the good examples and the poor examples of the infographics, and to help our students kind of, I guess, get a better understanding of where they should be looking, because we want it to be student driven, and so we want to give them good examples and maybe examples that aren't so effective. And then we thought a good way, and Crystal and I both decided that a good way to really get our kids kind of more interested in genetics is we both have shown clips from, it's called Cracking the Code, which is a movie about DNA and human genome, but it interviews several parents that are affected, their children are affected by genetic disorders. And so we thought we thought that maybe showing the video from the Lunch and Learn, that where the GIS scientist was talking about his daughter, we thought
No.
That might be a good way to fix, miss the gravity of this. I'm sorry, it's going to take me seriously, I'm sure. Is there a recording of that when we heard from him?
Yes. So that recording is on the Megabytes website under, let's see, hold on 1 minute.
Okay.
I can show you real quick because I think it's important. I liked the idea of kind of continuing what we did before and then like moving it forward. So if I do share Megabytes, if you come here, everybody can see the screen. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Cool. You go to Academy Career Talks, and you just kind of scroll down here. Here are all of the different talks lined out. So here's Andrew's talk. And then Abelardo's poorly recorded talk. It was a good talk, but I did a bad job recording it. Andrew's talk is on there, and then Sharon's talk will be on there as well. And then there might be some other stuff Mike is going to work on with it, but that's kind of downstream. So yes, that's all available, Christy.
Okay, cool.
Becky, are we ready for group 3?
Sure.
All right, so that is you, Emily, Lauren, Tanya, and
Justin.
Justin, I think? Yeah, Justin.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to speak. You guys should speak. Ha. Don't make me call names.
I'll go ahead and just start, I guess. I mean, we were just looking at different ways, like what our students might be more comfortable with when it comes to creating. And most teenagers are going to be comfortable creating something that'll be for social media. So that was kind of the gist of it, is letting them do what they're comfortable with rather than us trying to teach them something new. But then Emily reassured us that the kids are smarter than we are, so even if we can't figure it out, they can. So we can just show them the information we're going to learn on Canva, whether we're comfortable with it or not, they'll be able to do it.
We also had a, but you had a great idea too.
Huh?
But what about kind of what you were thinking of doing with, you know, like your daughter?
Well, that's where I was thinking, let the kids do what they're comfortable with. And I know my 9-year-old spends like 27 hours a day on TikTok, and she's only 9, and she can make TikToks where I can't even figure out how to turn the app on. So, I mean, the kids are going to be able to do amazing things if we just sit back and let them do what they know how to do and not try to teach them a pre-made way of doing things. Let them have it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. It goes back to what, you know, group 1 was talking about with the student driven, letting them have the ownership and the creativity to do what they want as long as the message is correct, right? Like, we don't want to have incorrect messaging. That's horrible. And we also want to make sure it aligns with the audience, and that, you know, whenever things get developed, you know, as Julie described, showing it to people before we release it. You know, if the audience is parents, have a bunch of parents look at it. You know, have maybe, and when we're talking about a contest, maybe have the parents vote, you know, like which ones they like a lot. You know, getting the community involved as much as possible, you know, just even in the development will be fantastic. Yeah. All right. 4.
So this is Diane, Christy, Linda, Micah, and David.
We said everything everybody else said, so we're good. Seriously, we discussed different ideas about how to get the kids to come up with ideas on what to do. And anybody else want to jump in, you can unmute and jump in anytime and get me out of this mess, as I looked at everybody being muted. We talked about what our target audience would be, and the kids would have to decide how big a target they're going for, you know, anywhere from family to community or beyond whatever they were looking for. What the message they want to give is and how are they going to deliver the message. Now, mentioning TikTok, I had a little concern about the social media out there because I've had 2 different people that I don't really know in discussions talking about problems they've had with TikTok having pirated their information. So I'm just not sure the safety of what we're using out there for the kids to use. That would be my big concern. But we talked about how to get the kids to figure out what they wanted to do and give them ideas. I gave an example. I had an A student one time said, "Don't make me think, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it." And we don't want them to do that. We want them to come up with their own ideas. And anybody else want to jump in? I'm more than happy to let you jump in.
Well, we also talked about, and actually I think it was your idea, what our kids know now because they did it with us and what our kids are going to know at the beginning of next year. So creating the message to take into school next year versus what we could do with the students we have now for those of us who still, you know, who are still teaching.
That wasn't mine, but it was a good idea.
So, and then, like you said, we talked about the TikTok and school websites. And one thing that I thought about was the kids are younger than us. They have ideas we don't have. So like some of the other groups said, they're going to come up with great ideas that we can't even hardly comprehend. So giving them the power to get, you know, use their own creativity and teach us something.
Yeah.
So one other thing that we talked about a lot was the importance of IDing the message. I think the other things, the targeting the audience and what the message is actually going to be are going to flow in naturally. I mean, every good thing has to come up with a good idea, right? So that's what is the actual message going to be? And that brought me to a question for the group, and that is, you know, are we IDing things specifically around lacrosse, or is it okay just to do a generic mosquito infogram? Because if it's specific to lacrosse, then I think we're going to have some hard data, in other words, numbers, because just like coronavirus, we were looking at our Worldometers and our Tennessee Gov coronavirus numbers, hourly and daily, and that's going to drive action. If somebody doesn't think that it's going to affect them, and a lot of us are data people, then why should I take an action? Now, having said that, I think everybody's annoyed by the generic mosquito, even if we know nothing about lacrosse or the fact that I might be able to get a disease from the bite of the mosquito. So I guess for me, wrapping my head around, do we have to narrow it down to the specifics of lacrosse, or is it okay just to do a generic, let's get the mosquitoes out of the community infogram?
So, that's a big question. What I would love is a variety of messages. So, if we have some that are, this is just about the mosquito, maybe some about, how to even choose a repellent, how to clean your backyard up for mosquitoes, to, lacrosse encephalitis, here are the symptoms and why it's important. Here's how you can prevent the bite. But the big thing is when it comes to an infographic, and Michael will talk about this, it's about clear and succinct and not providing too much information, versus a slideshow, which Julie is going to talk about in a moment. You can kind of provide steps, and kind of show a little bit more transition, I think. So I guess my answer is student driven, whatever the students think is important that they've learned about mosquitoes throughout the semester, even if it's about, maybe, connecting it to mapping and like where mosquitoes are, connecting it back to the actual experiment that the students did. So maybe their experiment was about the, the shade and not shade areas. They can make something that's like, if you only have 5 minutes to check your yard for mosquitoes, from our data, we learned that this is where they're likely to be. Spend your 5 minutes here versus over here. Kind of making it come full circle would be fabulous. Or even like a checklist of here's where mosquitoes could be around your property. But yeah.
I'm not the.
I think that maybe a good way to tie the kids into why this issue is important locally, that map that I think Mike was gonna post, where you can click on where lacrosse cases have been found, maybe.
Yeah. So like in Sevier County, there's been a number of, like every year, at least one child is diagnosed with lacrosse encephalitis. Is a pretty clean message. Yeah, so I shouldn't say every year, but maybe since 2000, right? Like a clear and accurate message would be great. How can we prevent that one person from getting infected?
You could also put up signs near where you collected your data if you found a lot of mosquitoes there. Mm-hmm. I think the thing about the question regarding trying to just prevent mosquitoes in general or overall is that then the question becomes, well, why don't we just get rid of all the mosquitoes? And so then we have to educate people about why sometimes they're good. So I think it's a little risky to say we want to try to get rid of all mosquitoes. But I defer to Becky because I'm not the messages.
Yeah, no, there's like over 5,000 mosquitoes. Like we don't, and a handful of them are super bad. We got to get rid of those ones, right? And that could be a message in and of itself, describing how not all of them are bad, right? Not all mosquitoes are equal. Some are way worse than others.
But you don't always have time to check them while they're on your arm.
No, the ones that bite us are the worst. Because that's how the pathogens have evolved to get us. They know. And another message could be, by doing mosquito control around your yard, you're also protecting your, not just yourself, but your entire four-legged family as well. Because mosquitoes can transmit canine heartworm, they can transmit West Nile virus. But, kind of thinking about this as a One Health, you guys know about the UT's One Health initiative, all of this kind of ties back together. And all of that, I think, is available in the Google Drive. And when I talked about it during our June workshop a long time ago, about 13 years ago, it feels like. Ooh, yeah, Mike has a good idea. Putting print material around the school during parent-teacher conference night. That way parents and family can see it. Something the students can be proud of. I love that. Oh, we have a new cat friend. All right, so I think, is there anything else from group 4? I don't know if there's a group 5.
There is a group 5.
All right, group 5.
That's Beth, Corey, Julie, Nicole, and Stephanie.
Awesome.
Well, we kind of talked all about a lot of the things that you all talked about, you know, with the exemplars and non-examples. Also with our younger students, practicing how to identify what target audiences. So maybe using something else, some infographics on not mosquitoes, and having them say, well, who do you think this is identifying? You know, who are you targeting? What does it want you to do? So they can practice on what a good product looks like. We thought that was kind of important. I also, somebody, I think, can't remember who said, but having a rubric was a good idea too. Like after you choose your platform that you want to do, you know, we had ideas of social media and school website, morning announcements, you know, putting up infographics around the school, because, you know, we did have a kid that had lacrosse at my school. He got really, really sick. But so, you know, he didn't get it at school apparently, but he didn't get it at school. But, you know, trying to do some of those things at the beginning of the year when the mosquitoes were the most prevalent on our campus. You know, that was our mosquito data, using that mosquito data. That's pretty much kind of like having them break into groups to decide, you know, so you're trying to hit all those different target audiences. Those are, if anybody else wants to chime in, what else we talked about, Stephanie, or?
I think you hit it all. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Did we have a group 6? Okay, so 5 groups. That's good. So I think we had some good ideas there. Let's take I don't know, I don't want to break too long. You know, a refill the coffee break if you need. And then we'll jump back into the second session for the morning, which would be the slideshows that Julie has her communication students working on. So you guys can see some good examples.
Well,
and maybe
hopefully. Good.
And maybe some interesting examples. Because it's all part of an assignment for their class that happen to have to use megabytes. All right, so yeah, we'll meet up at 10:20. So just kind of quickly, yeah. Their experiences were with mosquitoes, and you know, it's kind of like, how do I get somebody to journal something? So I just had them build a magnet, or we built a magnet, printed them out, and then they popped it on their fridge, and then just kind of ranked how bad their mosquitoes were that week. But a magnet would be great, because that can just stick on the refrigerator. It's like, you know, Tuesday tip and toss day.
Yeah, I think part of the problem I'm having here is that to me they don't want to use social media, and that's kind of difficult because we could have talked about that. But given that survey, I didn't see a reason to do it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something we can do later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think got about a minute. The birds sound nice.
That must be my house.
Oh, it's not mine. All I hear is a hound dog. Oh my goodness. All right, so for those of you who don't have your video on, no problem, but if you can just give like a reaction sign so that we know you're back. they're not back. That's how we know. They're coming back. Is this format going okay for everyone who's currently on? This is working a bit? Okay. Obviously, we're going to do better next time, but we're all learning on the fly. At least we have a little bit more time. It's not like, I don't know. Hey, you're going online in a week. Go. Oh, by the way, can you help someone else too? Yeah. Okay. Most everyone back? I think so. All right. In which case, Julie, I'm going to let you take over, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. So I've downloaded a bunch of let me tell you the assignment I gave to my students. My students are, let me find my Zoom again. Okay, so my students are college students. They come from across the university. They're not journalism students usually. Most of them, in fact, are what we call hard science students who do engineering. And I get a lot of evolutionary and ecological biologists. So the goal of the Writing About Science in Medicine class is to help them to better translate science information to the public, or to whatever public they're trying to reach. And for most of them, that is the general public, because they're looking to sell articles or sell their work. Of course, it also makes them hopefully better writers in writing up their own research. So what I've given them was an assignment to do slideshows. And this is the first time I've done a slideshow assignment. So it's been quite interesting in terms of the wide variety of stuff that they've come up with. And so we'll look at a couple of those and just kind of talk about how the slideshow works in terms of making a quick, almost like a commercial for whatever kinds of message you want to get out. And so I think slideshows would be great for your school websites, your class websites. There's no reason not to put several up on the Megabyte site. And so it's the beauty of the slideshow is that it combines both visuals and text, so you get more information than just a poster or an infographic. And but you still have to work on the construction of it. So let me find one and show it to you, and we'll see how this goes. Becky, there's a lot of you in this.
Fantastic.
Okay, why am I not getting this?
It's coming. It says it has started. I think it just takes a minute to.
Yeah, these are big files. Mine said, okay. You seeing that screen there?
No, yes.
With the big orange.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So what I told the students was that they could make a slideshow with any aspect of Megabytes. They could focus on lacrosse itself. They could focus on the project. They could focus on public science projects, etc. And so they've come up with different topics and focuses. let me see if I can make it. No. So I'll just click through it because I can't get that to go the right way again. Okay, do you see my screen now with the, it's a chart right now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was I gave them a couple hundred, well, no, probably 150 various photos where people didn't have their eyes closed or their mouth open in odd ways, and told them to develop a slideshow. So obviously, if you were going to put this up on a website, you would have it set to run through, and you wouldn't have to click through it, although you can also do that. So these are really, slideshows are really great because you can make it something people will watch on their phone really fast. So what I told the students was make it, around 30 to 60 seconds. So utilizing teachers. Oh. Okay. So I think on this particular slideshow, the student tried to convey mostly about, I think he tried to convey a little bit too much information because as the slideshow automatically flips through, and you can set the timer to how long you want it to remain on each slide, it's moving fairly quickly. But as you can see, I hope you can still see this. There's, it focuses mostly on photos, but with a little bit of text so people know what we're talking about. So let us turn to, any comments on this one?
So when you say this one had a little bit much, are you talking about it had a combination of what the program is and then ended with how to apply, or?
I think he's focusing pretty much on the program itself.
Okay.
But to me, it's a little bit vague. Like here when he says, go through a hands-on program. And of course, that's partly because he doesn't have access to all the information about it. So to me, when he goes over into these various specific things you learn, it kind of loses the focus.
Okay.
But where it loses me is the big typo.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Oh, God. And there might be a little bit too much in the way terms of, variety here. But you get the general idea that it's supposed to be something you can do, piece of information you can put together fairly quickly. I will say that this is the first draft of the students' work. So,
all right. Tanya had a question for you.
Okay, hey.
Just, I am not clear on who am I supposed to be showing a slideshow to?
Okay. It depends on your target audience, right? So obviously it would be great to have a target, to have a slideshow that could be on your website, your school's website. So people could easily, parents could easily click through, other teachers could click through. Students could post then the link to it on social media. It was again, think about this as a way to educate your target audience. So the one that we just saw there by Chris was focused on teachers and trying to get you to apply. Well, pretty much focused. Others are talking about how to protect yourself against the West Nile, or excuse me, lacrosse. So in general, the idea is that you would post this online someplace where people could easily watch it from their cell phone. Actually, a lot of people watch these things from cell phones, which is something that most people don't think about when we're putting the slideshows together. But yeah, just think of this as like another tool, like a poster, but something maybe a little bit more engaging that will get more attention. And also, unlike the posters or flyers, you can obviously include a lot more information than you can in a one-shot flyer or whatever. So let me see if I can get over here to showing you a lecture on it. And I can post the lecture. Excuse me, for Stephanie. I'll post the information that I gave them prior to this. So what I'm gonna show you here is just to give you some general outlines on how to put together the slideshows, and we'll post that again. Did I just post that? I just posted a lot of resources on our Google Drive, so that'll be up eventually on the website. But I'm a member of the Association of Healthcare Journalists, and I mean, they think that slideshows are really the best way to go, a good way to go, because you can get so much information. It's engaging and you're easy to share, and they don't cost much of anything. Okay, so we'll go through steps. So obviously what you want to do at the beginning, just like you're constructing any kind of message, is you want to convey a particular point. We don't want to just throw out all the information that we have into a slideshow and then confuse people. So you'll develop a storyboard first, and you guys are familiar with those, right? I think somebody was talking about that on the chat or on the reports of the group conversation. So again, think about what's a simple story. The stories need to be simple, straightforward. I think that the one we just looked at goes to me, he's pointing out a lot of different things that the teachers learn, but it kind of gets to me a little out in the weeds on that, even though it shows you that it's not just in the classroom. So generally when we're thinking about these, we want about 8 to 12 slides, and you could also use videos, but these are just with photos because that's easy to get. So first you want to sit down and have your students think about, okay, how are we going to tell this story? And I'm sure that you guys know how to work with them on telling stories. But again, before you do this, you want to think about the target audiences, who the target audience is, and what their interest is likely to be based on the material, based on the concepts we talked about earlier. Okay. So then once you've got the general story outlined, then you want to look for photos, or maybe you've already got some photos. Like my students had photos, just a montage of photos provided to them. So the idea here is that you develop the storyline, and then you start pairing the photos with with text and information. It's not a good idea just to put out a bunch of photos, because then nobody knows what you're talking about. So the first slide should give a slight introduction and a photo so that you can see that it's going to be something worth clicking on, because again, this will be posted on your websites, on social media, and you want people to be able to click on it, and they're not going to do that unless they see something intriguing at the beginning, right? So then slide 2 should contain your next point, etc. And finally, you want to have a clear ending. And what I mean by a clear ending is, if there's something that you want them to do, that is, you want them to remember to empty out water standing in their yard, you want to make sure that you emphasize it again at the end, so they've gone through, they've seen the reasons to do it, and then you get the clear ending as to what you should do. One thing we never want to do is assume that audiences can read our minds and see what we're talking about, right? Because they don't have the same information that you do. And so everything needs to be spelled out very clearly. I don't mean dumb it down. I mean, make sure that everything is really clear. Why do I have to go out and dump the water out of my yard? I don't want to have to do that. So give me a reason why I need to do that. Okay, so the next point is that the photos need to be easily comprehended. Oops. The photos need to be easily comprehensible, and that means that we should be able to tell what's going on just by looking at the photo. It's only going to be up there for 5 or 10 seconds, so you've got to be able to see what actually is happening there. I mean, if we looked back at one we just saw, it says that you guys are learning a variety of scientific skills, and we see you looking at in the microscope in the labs, looking at something. Most people are going to be able to understand that that's something happening and what's there. We don't want to put in anything that's really complex or that people will not be familiar with. So, like for example, if it's a good thing that the mosquito trap buckets say mosquito traps on them, because otherwise people are going to think, oh, it's just a rubber bucket left out in the woods. And so if you're looking at something and you've only got 5 seconds to comprehend it, you want to make sure that it's really clear. Second thing you want to make sure of is that you avoid landscape shots. I mean, and what I mean by that is the very distant ones. Make sure that your photos are going to be clear enough where people can see what's going on a screen as small as their cell phone, because that's really where most people will be looking at it. That means that you've got to pay close attention to the fonts that you're using and making sure that photos are easily seen and quickly identified. So the other thing is that there's, you really don't need to identify individuals. And what I mean by this is you don't need to say something along the lines of, here Micah examines mosquito eggs, or here somebody's looking at, somebody's counting mosquito eggs. You don't need to be that specific. It slows things down. People can tell that you're doing something in a lab related. Okay, so there's no need to identify people, like all the people in the photo, unless there's somebody that we might know. Most of the time, you're just the teacher photo, your student photo is just there for the illustration of the different kinds of things, which Chris's slide, the one we just looked at, did a good job of showing you're out in the woods, you're in the laboratory, you're in the classroom. Questions? Okay. So then the next step is pairing your text with the photos. We've got to keep the text pretty quick, pretty short, maybe about 30 words per slide, because people are going to be moving through this fairly quickly. Make sure that, be sure to edit your work, as my student clearly didn't completely do. And also, in addition to making sure that your photos are visible, clearly visible on a cell phone screen, then you also want to make sure that your font size is readable, and make sure you've got enough contrast to be able to actually see the photo. I'm going to show you a couple here where I don't believe we have that. I wanted to say that my students made their slideshows with PowerPoint. Some of them, with PowerPoint. A couple of them used more animated kinds of online tools. There's a lot of free tools out there. Let me see if I can show you one. Okay. So obviously a lot of these slideshow makers are primarily, can you see them? There's a list, should be a list on your screen now.
No, we're still seeing the steps pairing text to photos.
Okay.
Got to do the stop share and then reshare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's obnoxious.
I feel so lame today, and my Zoom usage usually is much better than this.
Okay.
Julie,
really?
Double task here.
Uh-huh.
So we got a question on what font size do you recommend for these to make them easy to read and legible?
Okay, usually you want to think about at least 18 point. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of 20 and bigger.
20 and bigger is good, but 18 should be enough to get, if you have to fit more information on. You don't want to use bold, you don't want to use italic, you don't want to use Comic Sans. It's got to be something that's really clear. We know that Helvetica, when it, like for example, a sans serif font, and Mike is going to talk about this, so I don't need to talk about this. That some fonts are easier to read when they're large, and some are easier to read when they're small. So a lot of that is just going to be trial and error. Okay, now do you see my slide?
You see your website?
List? Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so obviously a lot of these are for making slideshows to show at your graduation party, if you were going to have a graduation party, or your reception, if you could have a reception, all those things, which hopefully we'll have again someday. And most of these are really plain, and what I mean by plain, easy to use and free. I'm going to move y'all over here so I can see it. So this one, this smile box, is, you know, it's easy to use, etc. When I was looking at it, what happens is they want you to start with, they want you to actually start with the music. And the music should be the last thing that you think about if you're going to have music. I like this one because it's this Kidoa, which I posted online. I mean, which I posted up on our Google Drive, because it gives you a lot of different options. So if you note here, landscape, great for when we're reading on a computer monitor, not as good when you're looking at photos on your cell phone. Portrait is much better on the cell phone. You kind of want to avoid square because it just doesn't go anywhere. And obviously we want to have photos that are going to be interesting and exciting. Well, they're not all going to be exciting, let's just face it. So you can use any of these. I've posted online, or I posted on Google. Back to this. I've put up a list of really good tools for you. Let's see, I just got off that and I should have stayed with it. All right. This is a website that has got tons and tons of resources on it. It's not an attractive website, but I have posted the link to it. It's called Journalist Toolbox. And while you're not journalists, you can use these, and they update it just about every day. I mean, notice all the coronavirus stuff, and it's April 25th. They do update just about every day with a lot of different tools. You can follow them on Twitter to see what they're updating. Obviously your census, your severe weather, but they've also got lots of really cool sites or resources listed for things like design and visual journalism. Except here you have to click twice. And I wanted to show you this one real quick. If I can get her up. You still seeing my screen? It's just a design resources. Okay. All right. So this person, I do not know her, has prepared some really good information on how to avoid really bad design. So I'm going to try to play it for you. It's only a few minutes. Well, no, that's the 50-minute version. Let me show you the slideshow. It's easier. Now, see, anybody who would dress like that in public is interesting to me. So she works with these different sites. I've also posted this link to this particular site on the reference I just put up. And I'm clicking through this fast because I just want to show you some of the examples. We don't need to read the whole entire thing. But you want to think about the visual design. You want to think about how the user is going to use the design. You want to think about how instructional you want to be, et cetera, et cetera. So she's talking about visual design. So Micah, you can chime in here anytime on things that you agree with or you don't want to agree with. So notice the distinction she made. Design is about how things work. So here's some really simple examples of messages that are very striking. So this is one from AIDS back in the mid to late 80s. Black Lives Matter, again, very clear, short, easy to read. More art. Now here, these require, if you notice, these get a little bit more specific. She says, I miss my lung, Bob. Okay, well, you kind of have to be of a certain generation to really get that, right? That's the old Marlboro ads. And in Joy Capitalism, we could just float right past that because it's not what we're used to seeing there. So even here, when she's talking about all the changes in restroom and such, she says no to this one on the right. Why do you think that is?
It's way too busy.
Well, and what else? Think of it from an LGBT point of view.
Yeah, it's not inclusive too. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of inclusive of Teletubbies and unicorns and I'm not sure what that is. Superman.
Superheroes, yeah.
It's kind of demeaning, I think, if one was looking at it from that perspective, saying my gender is important as part of who I am, and that you're comparing me to a Teletubby.
Well, it's well past gender.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like this one here. The worst thing about censorship. So then she goes into a much more specific list of how to get people, how to be more effective with choosing images and fonts, which I'm not going to go through because I'm leaving that to Micah. But suffice it to say that the bad design is what we want to try to avoid. And when I'm talking about message design, I'm also talking about what text are you putting in your slideshow and what photos are you using. So we don't want to scare off people. We want them to get excited about lacrosse and post the slideshows elsewhere. So the beauty of PowerPoint or any of these other softwares is that, as you know, it allows you to do anything. You can go through and test just about everything. Before you print it out. The problem is, along with that, you can test just about anything. So you have to know what you're doing in order to be able to get your message across much better than this. It's got to be large, it's got to be readable, etc. Okay, and I said use vertical. So generally, short text, clear photos, and here I'm sorry, I'm using my most photographed objects in my home to illustrate. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Slide transition. So keep it to like 30 to 60 seconds because we all have short attention spans now. And what I mean by slide transition is, up here where it says transition, surprisingly enough, it shows us what's going to happen if we go with something really fancy. And that's not too bad. That's kind of bad, right? They fade in. They wipe in. There are tons of these, as you know. Oh, crush, I don't want to crush my babies. Like that. Avoid that sort of thing that, while it's fun, is not going to be appropriate to, oh God, not going to be appropriate to slideshows for lacrosse. This is Penelope, the gray, and the calico is Alice. She's adorable. So, a lot of times people are uncomfortable just, as we all know from Zoom now, reading something or watching something and not being able to listen to it. So music is really optional. If you're going to use music, there's lots of free sites out there where you can use kind of canned music that's not by any big artist. But whatever music you use, you don't want to distract from the text. I'm going to see if I can get one of my students' assignments to play here. She kind of went overboard with her work. Okay, let me start that over.
Oh, you guys, that's the toxorynchites, right?
Julie, are we supposed to hear sound right now?
Yeah, it should be.
I think you may have to use an option at the bottom where your microphone is, and I think you may have to say something about like turning on computer audio, maybe.
Were you able to hear that at all?
At the end, yeah.
Yeah. So my point, it's kind of over the top and distracting.
Yeah. I like the two cellos, though. They're a good group.
Like which part?
It's they're called two cellos. So actually knew them. Yeah.
Huge fellows. Oh yeah. Well, let's just say, you wouldn't be playing Harry Styles on one of these.
No. I mean, like, the best one's probably the Arms of the Angel, right? The dogs and the cats. Those, like, you can't hear that song ever again.
No, do not bring that up.
Yeah. But I think it's a good example of how music can really evoke emotion.
Yes. I've got it down to where I can get in about 2 seconds to shut the volume off on the TV.
Yeah. Diane, you have a good point. So there's also too many text boxes on this, right?
Yes,
I can't read them.
And here you've got really bad contrast.
Yeah.
If you were looking at this on a small screen like a cell phone, you wouldn't be able to read it. Okay.
And Megabytes was wrong.
Yeah. Hey, they're in college. They're no better.
Yeah, they're humans.
Yeah. And that's, like I say, this is their first time to do it, to make the slideshow. So, and that was the one who was telling me she's so terrible with technology. Let's see. No, I'm going to show this one. Ay, ay, ay.
So Diane asked about using Prezi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that would be just as fine.
Oh, yeah, as long as you're not violating copyright.
Yeah.
That's what matters, because, okay, good. Thank you for doing this. So see, this person who created this is actually a doctoral student in engineering from South America.
So we can't see, we see you, but not your PowerPoint yet.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just giving this as an example for, I'm getting tired. I'm just using this as an example, PowerPoint as an example of one of these kinds of tools you can use that you don't have to sign up for, et cetera, if you've already got it. Okay, now do you see the tree hole mosquito?
Yeah.
Okay, these are photos that came from the June workshop.
I like the use of black and white and having the text be in color.
Yeah, because that way you see the text stands out a lot more.
Yeah.
Whereas with color, it gets lost. Come on. I'm really not sure how we got this photo with this text.
That doesn't align at all.
No. No. And there you put the text over the person's face. We don't want to do that.
I think that's absolutely fine if it's my face.
I know. I'm sure you would say that, but nonetheless, you got to be careful with these things. It's also good to be fairly consistent with where you place the text over the photo.
If they used like a box too, it might be easier to see the font. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I say, this guy is he's in what energy engineering. So he's not real up on visual communication. Let me check the chat.
That's a good picture, though.
Yeah, it is. I can't remember whose picture that was.
Linda, is that your group? I see the rolly thing.
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Right. So the main points are that there's a ton of ways to do these. You just have to have an online site in which to post them, or I'm sorry, I'm seeing Diane's comment. Obviously not. But again, you notice that the students here, because they tend not to, because I don't have it in slideshow mode, that's why the grid lines. The students, and maybe your students are the same, tend not to read it through more than once, which is obviously important. Okay, and let's just take a look at another one.
Then I found a few slideshows that have been imprinted, or I guess, or like embedded into websites. So
yes, yes.
I can show those too in a minute, just so you can.
Oh, I've got some. Yeah.
Yeah. So people can see how they could be used on maybe your school website or on the Knox County Health Department website or someplace else, whatever the target audience is.
Okay,
I know you look frozen.
Well, I am kind of frozen. I have to tell you that my husband insisted on taking me yesterday to the doctor to get a COVID test.
Oh no.
Because I was really sickly. So usually I'm a little bit more animated than this.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just was talking about the PowerPoint.
Oh, the PowerPoint.
You yourself are fine.
Oh.
But I hope you're okay. Yeah. Fingers, legs, toes crossed. Yeah.
So you get the general idea here. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say. And now I'm tired. So yeah, we can take a look at some slideshows that are embedded into web pages. There's a lot of these in like the nature, and they're much more professional, obviously. There's a lot that are much more, I don't want that.
I like that green though, that's pretty.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna stop for now and you guys can chat because I'm kind of worn out for no good reason.
Yeah. All right.
It's
so
taking more time than it should. Okay.
Yeah. So can you do the stop share?
Yes, I can. But you don't want to look at my kitties any longer?
No, they're precious. They are.
Yeah.
You should just put one like right here and one right here. I love this. So I found a couple of things that I thought you guys might want to see. So because it's timely, COVID-19, this is on the town of Islip. Excuse me. Just a slideshow that their health department made just to be informative and to keep things moving, I think. So this is Suffolk County, New York, one of the areas that's obviously really under a lot of pressure right now. And so I'm going to just click through it so you can see this one. Oh, Islip. Totally did not say that correctly. Yeah.
Islip.
Islip.
My sister is teaching there.
Okay, so then you might send this to her. Yeah. Here's your target audience is your sister. But so I think this is just an informational, what do we need to know about COVID-19, community spread, how it spread, how to slow the spread, if you'll sick, stay home. One of the hard things about COVID-19 is people want to act about it, and the best way to act is to stay apart. You see the Tennessee message all the time, do your part, stay apart. Even Peyton Manning is doing that now for us. With lacrosse, it's different. You can actually do things to prevent it. I'm sorry?
I like the table.
Yeah. So this could go into
Screenshot of that.
Yeah. I'll copy these links and put them in the chat, and then Michael can save them. You know what to do if you're feeling sick, COVID-19, and then it just kind of plays over, right? I found this one on West Nile virus. It's very wordy.
Oh my, no, don't, no.
It's very wordy.
No.
So good and bad, right?
Yes.
Lots of information. No one's going to read it. And I know that because I didn't read it and I feel bad. But this is in 2012. Maybe, things have been updated since then. But this is on the Infection Control Today website and other articles.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Now, that's a really good example of targeting your audience, because obviously Infection Control Today people are probably going to read this, but the general public will not.
No. I mean, I'm not going to read it, and I'm interested in West Nile virus, so they missed me. So today, actually, I'll wait to tell you that. But I like let's see, I'm going to start on this one. I'll make it bigger so you guys can see it. So here, malaria transmitted by this mosquito. One of the things for me I think is important is combining, with science, it's all about trust. And so the same way is true with journalism and science communication. What we say has to be correct. What we show also has to be correct. And so, there's a number of times I've worked with scientists where, it doesn't matter what mosquito we're showing because it's a mosquito, and really we're just conveying this other message. And I'm like, no, if I can't trust that you can't ID the mosquito, why would I trust what you're sharing? So here, this is the correct mosquito species. It's Anopheles gambiae that transmits malaria, or transmits the plasmodium causing malaria. So making sure that the right mosquito is being shown is important.
Also, make sure if you cite statistics, you identify where they came from.
Yeah. So kind of building that trust and being as clear as possible. So here is content. Not sure what just happened upstairs. I think this is a actual PowerPoint presentation for species. Making sure things are correct. So here, plasmodium should be capitalized in italics, falciparum, vivax, oval, and malariae should be lowercase. So this could be one of those ways where, in your classroom, when you guys are teaching about, taxonomy and nomenclature, the importance of italicizing the genus and species can come out into your coursework. So that's a blurry picture, making sure you don't have blurry pictures. Things in focus are better than things out of focus. That's probably obvious. Here, they're showing how to ID the mosquito, even though they aren't telling you how to ID the mosquito. It has a long mouth part.
Well, also, I don't know what kind of mosquito they're talking about there, because they've shown us 5 or 6 different species, right?
This is Anopheles. This is correct.
Well, no, I know that, but I don't remember back 2 or 3 slides ago where they talked about the different types and how long the incubation period is and all that.
Oh, yeah. But just kind of. Okay, so here only females feed. They at least got the right number of legs, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could have, and they have antennae, so we're okay. These graphics are always good. This is really informative. Too much. I like that picture, but it doesn't tell me anything. Sleeping under the bed net. Anyway, that kind of gets your, I guess, an idea across of the different types of slideshows.
Right, but slideshows that I was really wanting to focus on was the ones that are more photo based.
Yeah, yeah.
Because most people aren't going to go all the way through these.
No, no. So, do you guys have questions about the slideshow or kind of how you could use it in the classroom before we jump to Canva and the infographics? No? All right. Okay, so what we'll do now is, Micah, we're going to jump over to you. And then after Micah's done, we'll let you guys kind of talk it out again before the lunch and learn session starts. This is a great one. Show that one again.
Okay, I'll go back.
Is there music with it? It looks like there could be.
I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Anybody know how I can get that to click on? I guess. All right, let's just look at it. Finally, a shout out to the GIS. That's a really great photo, by the way, whoever took that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, this one's getting a little bit busy with text up at the corner and down at the bottom.
So I need to know, is that a staged shot? Because it's a good shot. Nicole?
No, they were checking. They were switching out the cups.
Okay, so they were that excited, like for reals? Oh my gosh, sorry. That's awesome.
And see, I really like, this is what I mean by having a strong, clear finish. I mean, to take it from the teaching to the students to the future. I think this is a really good way of closing in that, you know, we're done. We've made our point.
Yeah.
It's also a cute photo. Okay, I'm done. I will turn that over.